Testing. Testing. Yeah? Seems a little loud. Is that a little loud, or is that okay? A little feedback? Yeah. Okay. I'll stay close to the front. Where can I put that? Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out today as Mother Nature and Punxsutawney Phil reminds us that we still have a little bit of winter left. Hopefully not too much. We're very excited to host this event today. And we're also very excited to host it in the midst of a wonderful exhibit that you can take a few minutes after the event to take a look at, but it'll be up through the month, through the first week of March. So you can come back to Fivesparks during the week, during our open hours, Tuesday through Thursday, 12 to 6, Friday, 12 to 3, and first and third Saturdays from 12 to 6. Just don't forget that. It's on our website. Kathryn Costello is a Harvard resident and a friend who I've known since we moved to town 30-ish years ago. She's also a professional portrait photographer, and the 40 over 40 series is one in which Kathryn set out to photograph a demographic of women she felt were underrepresented in the culture. She wanted to explore the essence of women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and beyond to discover and capture in portraits the power and wisdom that come with age. Among these women are those who are widowed, divorced, cancer survivors, mothers, grandmothers, retired, and entrepreneurs. Some have experienced some sort of rebirth and describe this as the best time in their lives. Many say they've never felt more confident, healthier, or stronger. Most are as adventurous now as they were in their 20s. All these women prove that beauty and grace will not diminish with age. The exhibit in and of itself is wonderful, but it also was the inspiration for today's event. We talked among our Fivesparks team about some sort of a speaking event, and the idea of a panel was proposed by a collaborative friend of the organization. And we pursued that, and we're very fortunate to have a wonderful panel of women to speak with us today, and a moderator who many of you will know, and I will introduce now. Ann Perkins currently lives in Harvard, grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and over the past 30 years, she and her husband have raised pigs, chickens, goats, 3 children, and the occasional cow. She is also an award-winning author and historian whose work focuses on oral history and recovering the lost stories of women. Her 2019 book, Yale Needs Women, for which we have Ann speak here, back in the pre-times, won the 2020 Connecticut Book Award for Nonfiction and was named by Book Browse as a best book for book clubs. I'm going to turn it over to Ann. She will introduce the panel and the format for today, and then we'll have a chance for Q&A at the end. So again, thank you for coming out. Welcome, and please give a round of applause for our panelists.
Well, hello on this snowy Sunday, and welcome to this panel at Fivesparks. My name again is Ann Perkins. Many of you know me by my nickname Andy, which you should feel free to call me as well. First off, many thanks to Mark for the wonderful, wonderful job he's done pulling this event together. It's been a pleasure to work with him. And just maybe we can all give Kathryn a round of applause for these wonderful photographs. A brief note on COVID, you'll see I took my mask off. What we wanted to make sure was that you could hear us. I gave a talk at a conference in November where I kept my mask on, and afterwards I asked a friend in the audience what he thought about what I'd said, and he said, oh, it sounded like this. So we all tested negative for COVID this morning just to be super safe with you, and of course we've all been vaccinated as well, but we will be taking our masks off when we talk so that you can hear us. So the title of today's panel, again, is Women, Aging, and Self-Identity. I love this topic because for any of us, for all of us, no matter where we are in our own process of aging and self-reflection, the topic touches home. And I would say no matter what our gender, and there are a couple brave men in the audience, it would touches home as well. We are going to follow a fairly standard format today. The panelists picked 4 questions that we're going to explore together. And then at about 4:45, 10:05, when Mark does this to me, we'll go over to you and give the audience members a chance to ask questions. So I'm really looking forward to that part as well. And on that note, let me introduce the panel. I'll start with Liza over here at the end. Liza is a photographer, painter, and author. She has shown her work in solo and group shows throughout the United States, and her 2013 book, Moving with the Seasons, Portrait of a Mongolian Family, received 6 National Book Awards, including 20 Best Photo Books of the Year. An environmental scientist by training, Liza uses art to beguile and captivate viewers into a loving and caring relationship with the natural world. She just finished her 2nd book, A Book for Children. Next to Liza is Sadie Maruska. Sadie is a social justice, equity, inclusion, and diversity consultant and coach, host of the award-winning podcast Diversity Dish, speaker, and aspiring author. Her passion is helping individuals in business cultivate cultures of equity and inclusion so they attract the diverse partnerships they desire. Sadie is a first-generation Haitian American, a wife and a mother who prides herself on having an amazing extended family network and being a citizen of the world, born in Queens, New York. Next, we have Lisa Akashevitz. Lisa is a photojournalist, business owner, and mother. 16 years ago, she left her job in corporate marketing. I didn't know you were in corporate marketing, to help found an independent, locally owned newspaper, the Harvard Press. The newspaper is still publishing today. Lisa loves capturing the ephemeral and turning it into history, be it a pandemic town meeting under a tent or a child's first baseball game. She also runs a separate freelance photography business for which she shoots sports, portraits, weddings, and bar and bat mitzvahs. And then lastly, we've got Wendy Hyatt. Wendy is a well-being consultant whose passion is helping moms feel more comfortable in their own skin, have the energy they had before kids, and feel empowered to contribute to the household income while they maintain a flexible schedule and have fun doing the above with a community of women who want the same thing. She has won 2 World Bodybuilding Championships in the Pro Masters Bikini category and is the mother of 2 independent and thoughtful kids. And I'm going to do one more thing before we get going, which is there is generally a taboo about women sharing their ages, or at least sharing their correct ages, and so we thought we would start by breaking that taboo and telling you how old we all are. Liza is 65, Sadie is 54, Lisa is 56, Wendy is our youngster at 42, and I am 62. And with that, let's begin. So I thought we'd start with a question about having a photograph taken of you, a big photograph like this and displayed in a public space like this. 2 of our panelists have their photos in the show, Lisa and Wendy, and 2, Sadie and Liza, do not. And they're like the rest of us, don't have our picture up here on the wall. Sadie, why don't you start us off here? How do you feel about having a big photo of you made at your current age?
I would love it. I mean, I'm looking at these amazing images and I'm going, this is fantastic. But I thought about doing that before because I think that at this point in time in my life, I feel more confident now than I had ever. And so to have a huge picture, portrait taken of me to be displayed would definitely like project that confidence that I feel when I turned 52. Oh, you said I was 54, but I'm 53. But that's okay.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
It's okay. did have some images done. Of course, they were images for business and as well as for my 52nd birthday. And when I got those images back, I thought, oh my God, who is she? because, because you're not often really aware of how much you grow until you can see yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what these images do. They help you to see yourself and to help you go, wow, is that how other people see me? That's amazing. I'm so excited.
That's
So I would love it.
Liza, you were going to talk on this question as well.
Right, so I warned you when you asked whether I'd be willing to answer this question that I might go on a bit of a rant, which I guess you wanted, so rant warning, which is the question sort of presupposes that women would be uncomfortable showing their bodies and their ages. And my rant is that we've been all fed, we have such a toxic culture around body image. And, what if we spent the energy that so many people spend on the size of their thighs or whether they have wrinkles and doing things like climate change and overthrowing the patriarchy and dealing with white supremacy and things that are actually important. I would really love all that energy to be put to something positive. And I hate that we've all been given this Kool-Aid. We've grown up in it and we're surrounded by it and we can reject it. But we do swim in this toxic sea of that women should look a certain way. And there's this wonderful quote by Ram Dass, in which I'm going to paraphrase. And he says, if you go in the woods, you see tall trees and you see short trees and you see bent trees and you see twisted trees, and they're all beautiful. They're all trees. And we can appreciate them in all the weird configurations and diversity that they show us. And why can't we treat women like that? So he says, just go out and be a tree. And, my last thought on that is that would men ever be asked whether they'd have a problem having a picture of themselves at age 65? And the answer is absolutely never.
Yeah.
Because they would, of course, I'm a dude. Here I am. But somehow we have to get through this miasma of badness.
Yeah. Lisa, Wendy, you both have your photos up in the exhibit. Either of you want to talk about that, the process of having that done, or how that feels?
I'll definitely talk about it. My portrait was done last week. It was kind of a rush. And I was really excited to work with Kathy because I've taken photography classes with Kathy for about 10 years. And it was like being with a friend. One thing I've noticed as a photographer, though, being on the other side of the camera all the time, is first of all, there aren't a lot of pictures of me. So this was a real treat. And it's a beautiful, actually mine's right here. She did a beautiful job, and it was such a gift to have a really nice image of myself. But I also noticed, because I do senior portraits, and I'm always saying to the families when I go, like,
maybe you want to hop in and get a photo, because this is a turning point for all of you. This is not just your kid going away to college. This is your nuclear family often dispersing for the first time, or maybe for the last time. And your kids are going to want to know, like, when their kids grow up, where's my mom? What did she look like? How old was dad? Like, they seem so old at that time. Oh my God, they're so young in that picture. We all have that moment, right, where we go, oh my gosh, my parents were actually people. So I've always encouraged people to kind of hop into the photo. And I think, in general, women are the first ones to step out of the picture. And we have edited ourselves out of history as we've been not reflected in history already. It's almost like it's just magnified it by our own self-selection of saying, oh, I don't like that picture in there, I don't like pictures, or, you know what, who cares? You're there, you're part of the reality of the world, and we need to stand up and stay in those photos and be who we are and not have to be perfect.
Any thoughts on this one, Wendy?
How does it feel to have a picture of me? Oh, sorry, right. Like, I can hear myself. How does it feel to have a portrait of me? Actually, there's my two favorites, so I'm glad Kathryn and I agree. Currently, it feels normal. But if you would have asked me probably 10 years ago, oh, I forgot my tissues. If you asked me 10 years ago, it definitely was that self-conscious feeling. So, and like self-critical of myself. So just letting go of that, it feels amazing. So and I actually, so now that I've been doing a lot of bodybuilding and I see these huge banners of people, I was expecting, like, when she said big pictures, I was like, oh, it's going to be this floor length.
That's what I thought too, yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right, tone it back down. So right now it feels normal.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the images that she was able to catch, and it was just, like being lost in the moment and being fully present and letting go of everything and just being.
So the panel met via Zoom before, I don't know, what was that, maybe a week or two ago, and talked about this topic of identity and aging. And so the rest of the questions are really probing that. And so we're going to go with Lisa, if you don't mind starting on this one. What was your self-identity before you turned 40, and how would you describe it now?
Oh, a little question.
Oh, yeah. I started with the easy one, and then you were just going to jump right in, baby.
Well, let's see. Before I was 40, I worked in a consulting company in marketing as a marketing writer. And I had very young kids, and I was really burnt out. I worked for a company that actually went bankrupt. It's the oldest consulting company in America. RCB literally went bankrupt. And I remember just waking up one day and just thinking, like, I don't want to go there anymore. Like I had made it through the bankruptcy, landed in one of the spin-off companies. I was fine, but I was miserable. I was like, all I do is get up and go to work and come home and take care of these kids and clean, and it was miserable. So I did what they always tell you not to do. I actually quit my job without the next job lined up. Oh my God. And I lived to tell about it. And I took about 18 months off and just kind of tried to get myself back because I was so burnt out. And then some friends approached me and said, hey, we're thinking about starting up a newspaper. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah. We all had a great local paper that got bought up and regionalized and, basically destroyed. And we all missed it. And I grew up in Carlisle, which also had the nice little local paper. So to me, that was very familiar and something I absolutely loved. And it was really great to get to suddenly be somebody who was forming a company and thinking about how it can run and having flexibility in my schedule. So when my kids got sick, I didn't have to do a circus act to get home to get them.
Yeah.
It was so much more about my values of community, of family, of growth, of having my own words and vision. So to be able to do the photography and camera has been such a gift to me because I feel like I really drive it. I get to choose what I take the pictures of. Nobody says, this is your assignment this week. I'm the one doing the assignments. And, that's really such a joy of a place to be when you can actually make those decisions and not have to okay them with anybody else. So my view of myself now is far more independent. I mean, not to make this all rosy. I mean, clearly I took a huge financial hit to go to work for a newspaper. Yeah. But I've also been able to then maintain my photography business, which has been really, so much part of my identity. It's my love and my passion. So I've been really fortunate to be able to work in this field.
When Mark was talking about Kathryn's work, there was a word that he used that I thought was really interesting, power. And I'm wondering whether you feel, and it's not one that women are often as comfortable with as men are. I'm wondering, would you say you feel more powerful now?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I was working in consulting, I was 8 layers down in management. So there was never a moment where you felt you had any power to do anything. When you got chosen to do something, it was, you've been nominated. Like, thanks. And even when I started the paper, nobody knew I was one of the owners. I never talked about it. But as the years have gone by, I've really grown into that role and been more comfortable with it and will talk about it and own it. So yeah,
how about you? Identities that you maybe let go of when you turned 40, others that became more important?
I think I alluded a little bit to it before, but yeah, just really being uncomfortable in my own skin and being super shy before. And when I was younger, I think it was probably my kindergarten through 5th grade report cards would always say that Wendy is not a risk taker. So it just kind of stuck with me, and I felt like that's my identity. I just stay in the background and play it safe. And once I turned 40, I just said, why do I care so much about what other people think? I'm not that happy. I'm not happy trying to fit into this, what I think other people think I should be doing. So just slowly stepping out and testing the waters and just seeing what lights me up, what makes me feel good. That was probably more of what guided me. And I guess my self-identity now is just is a stronger woman, is someone who can, even though my voice is emotional, I feel like I can trust myself more. Before I didn't really think that my thoughts were valid or that my opinions mattered, but now I just say, you know what, if it feels good for me, I'm gonna do it. Thankfully, my husband's really supportive, and if something doesn't feel right, it's okay to say no. It's okay. So.
The bodybuilding competitions, I'm curious on the chicken and egg thing. Like, did you think, I'm not happy, I'm going to go into bodybuilding competitions, or did it go the other way around? Because that's such an amazing thing that you do. I just can't even, and whoever said you weren't a risk taker is totally wrong.
Yeah, that's such a great question. Thanks, Anne. Yeah. So when we started a family, I got into this rut of the comparison mode. Oh, every mom has it together, their dishes are already done, the laundry's already done, and like dinner's made before the husband gets home. And I'm like, I'm still in my pajamas, and I just didn't feel like I was getting anything right. And on top of that, I just didn't really care about my nutrition as much. And going back to the gym, which was my love, wasn't fulfilling for me anymore. I wasn't getting the results I used to get. So, even going to the gym to arrange for childcare felt like a big chore. So I just said, you know what, it's not worth it. Clearly, I'm not getting results, so why bother? Why bother keep going? So, I met someone who I started changing up my nutrition, and when I changed my nutrition, it was like night and day difference. Like, I started noticing I was sleeping better, I didn't feel as groggy, and I was like, wow, why am I getting more lean muscle mass? And I've stopped working out. So I just said, well, this is interesting. I'm like, I like the way my body looks now after having 2 kids, and it looks better than it did when I was in high school and working out more often. So I just said, I saw one of my friends go and do a fitness competition. She looked amazing. I saw another mom friend do it, and I was like, well, if they can do it, so can I, right? And I was like, I wonder if I could. So I said, I'm not going to tell anybody. This is just a one and done thing. I just want to do it just to see if I can do it. And I booked myself a photo shoot right after. That was my prize. And I was like, I don't care what happens on stage. I'm just doing it for the photo shoot. And so I did it. And I was probably the worst client for my coach. And I was like, I'm not going to follow your nutrition. Just tell me what workouts to do. So once I did it, there was all this buildup towards it. And the other side of that fear, though, was just, wow, I did it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I know how I could have done it better. So it was going from feeling so uncomfortable in my own skin to actually paying to be part of this competition, to be judged in a micro bikini, essentially. And I was like, this is so bizarre. And this is insane. Who does that? But my husband has been supportive the whole way through, and he likes to see me succeed. So it was just a progression. it's a 7-year progression, but it was just each time I said, how am I going to get better than myself before? How am I going to grow? Who do I get to become with each show? You know, it's always, it's just me against me, and that's how I feel like I've done a lot of personal development through it. It wasn't so much going on stage, it's like the fanfare. I guess it's kind of like proms for moms, but it was just, it led me to a community of women who are just seeking more for themselves and who are just overcoming some kind of struggle within themselves to just be someone different.
Thank you. So Sadie, when we were all talking before, it seemed like a lot of people on the panel had hit a transition point or a point of awakening or a fundamental change. Can you tell us about yours?
I think after 40, I've had a few. Starting with, I had my daughter at 42.
Yeah.
And when I got pregnant, I was telling Linda, I was like, it was the farthest thing from my mind because, you know, when you're young and you're planning out your life, which, you know, is the best way to plan, and you're not thinking, oh, when I get to be 42, that's when I'm going to have my second child. You know, that's not the plan, right? So I got to 41 and I found out I was pregnant, and I called my sister and said, I feel bad that I feel bad that I'm pregnant. But, you know, at that time, it was so much more, it was like, I'm just hitting my stride, I feel like. I'm just starting to do certain things. You know, I'm coming into my own, I'm feeling really good, and I have to have a baby now? So that was one transition. But, you know, as you said earlier, I'm 53, and at 49, I was diagnosed with cancer. And that gives you a whole other transition and perspective as well. Because when I was in that room with the doctor and she said to me, you have invasive lobular carcinoma, that was the last thing I heard. My husband thankfully was in the room and asking questions, because for me, my mind went from 0 to you're dead, so what does that mean for your children? And then it also went to, okay, let's say you're not dead, what are you doing with your life? Are you okay with what's happening with your life now? And I knew my kids would be okay, but I wasn't okay. I didn't say, yes, I was good with what was happening. Like, I wouldn't have left a legacy that I would feel happy about, because I was living in default a lot before 40 and then, you know, getting to 50. And so that really triggered a shift for me to say, I have to allow myself to slow down and to figure out, or to be open to whatever's coming. And that has been the biggest change for me. Before I turned 40, like what you said, I was not comfortable with myself, generally speaking. After I turned 40, I felt more comfortable with myself, and I felt that I mattered a little bit more. But when I got to the cancer diagnosis, and I was looking at 50, and I was going, I'm not doing nearly what I need to be doing. That was when I said, you know, all the I have to's, all the what are they gonna think, all the I can't needed to go out the window. And I needed to think to myself, what do I want to do versus what do I think I have to do? Is this in line with what I really feel is speaking to me? And that's how I've been going forward with it. And the more I do that, the more the more clarity I gain. I don't push myself to gain clarity. I allow the clarity to come and say, oh my gosh, look at that. This thing just happened. That's awesome. It would have never happened 5 years ago. Or I would have never been able to allow it to happen 5 years ago. So I think that, so I believe, and I'm very hopeful and looking forward to all the subsequent years that are coming. Because at this point, I'm like, well, if this feels this good right now, what are the possibilities later on, right? I think one of the things that happens for us, especially as women, is there's this idea, and there's this, that people who are under, you know, there's the 30 under 30, and there's the, you know, 40 under 40.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are celebrated for reaching their height prior to midlife. What we're failed to be told or failed to understand is that the majority of people actually reach their pinnacle after 40 and 50. It's the 40 over 40 and the 50 over 50 and the 60 over, even into your 80s is when you are actually really coming into yourself, because now you've lived life, you've got some perspective. And you can say, this is not what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And you can actually really become what you're meant to become. You know, those God bless them, those 30 under 30 and the 40 under 40 for running the race really fast. But most people, most of us, don't get to that until we are here at this point and we can settle down and say, you know what, this feels good. I want more of this, and we're more sure of that. We enjoy that better.
Thank you. Thank you. So we talked, you know, a lot in terms of this one identity of our gender, that we're all women, and how does women affect aging. But of course, we have multiple identities: our religion, our sexuality, our race, and other aspects of ourselves. And so we also talked about what other aspect of your identity has intersected with aging and been important. Liza, I'd like to start with you on that one. Can you tell us another aspect of your identity that shaped your experience of life over 40?
Yeah, my prime identity that no one really knows looking at me is I'm dyslexic. I'm amazingly emotional about it. It's usually just so much of a thing. But what it meant was, growing up, I was surrounded by everyone telling me that I was different than who I was. So I was lazy, I was stupid, I was careless, you know, whatever it was. And I knew they were wrong. So it meant that I had to reject the entire world. So I had a very lonely existence. But because it was so wrong, I didn't lose myself in that process. I was able to hold on to it. It's like, no, actually, you're really smart. And then compensating. So my, you know, my whole life really has been around figuring out workarounds, whether it's, I mean, really in every category. And as I got older, well, in the process of doing my book on Mongolia, to get it published, I started crystallizing it in terms of I'm circumnavigating the gatekeepers. Like, I am going to publish this book. And it was a really interesting process because once I put it in those terms, it was like I felt really empowered. It's not like I'm being a supplicant, oh, please, 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 will you publish my book? And yes, I know you've told me for the past 8 years that you're going to, but when are you actually going to do it? You know, I could say, okay, the heck with it, I'm going another path. So figuring out workarounds in all aspects of my life was a huge part of everything. And that obviously includes, you know, the sexism that we exist in, you know, that I grew up around. But I would say that that was, you know, that was the prime intersection for me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you have this voice fighting back, saying, I am smart, I am capable. Where did that voice come from?
I think it was because that I just rejected everything that was coming my way. It's why I have such a strong reaction to all the beauty standards too, because I thought they were all bullshit. You know, it's like all of it, everything that was coming my way, I was going, no, this is wrong. And I think that also part of being dyslexic is you see outside of the box. And you make connections outside of the box. So that was very much how I was sort of managing to survive.
Yeah.
And it took a long time before I felt empowered in that process rather than beleaguered by it.
Yeah. Yeah. But clearly you feel empowered now, and
Now,
that's
yeah.
wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
Wendy, another aspect of your identity that's kind of intersected with aging?
I guess probably the most obvious one is just my culture, where I grew up. I grew up in Connecticut, which was predominantly Caucasian, and I think there were maybe 2 other Asian students in the whole class, in the whole school. So I didn't really identify with other, I thought for all intents and purposes that I was Caucasian. I mean, I felt that way because I was just around so many peers, and but it was pretty obvious that, you know, around holidays people would ask me questions, you know, do I celebrate this, do I celebrate that, why do I look like this? And then going over to Hong Kong, where my family is from, I was seen as an outsider there as well too, because I'm not fluent in Chinese, and you know, I'm just the outsider. So growing up with that, and the cultural norms of children are seen and not heard, and you know, women, the girls are supposed to be the homemakers and things like that. It just, I guess that's in more cultures than just the Chinese culture. And then changing that, it was just like, you know what, it's actually this year that I realized it's okay to not like cooking. It's okay. It's okay to have prepared foods and enjoy them. Yeah, so I think it was just realizing that those were things that I thought I should be, that don't necessarily light me up, that
Yeah.
don't like float my boat. So letting go of some of those the cultural norms, and just realizing that there are other women, other Asian women who are power lifters too, or whatever. It's eye-opening to open my eyes.
Lisa, what about you? Different aspect of your identity besides being a woman?
That one's not one I have a great strength to talk to. I see myself as a photographer. That's certainly has shaped how I view the world every moment of every day. You know, I mean, I'm so visual, and I look around the room and I'm just looking at the light, and how it's hitting things, and the colors. And, I mean, it's so ingrained. I eat, sleep, and breathe it now. I think the other identity that's been huge for me has been being a mom. My mother got Alzheimer's when she was in her mid-50s, so it was never lost on me that I didn't know how much time I would have with my kids. So, thus the career change and having more control over my schedule. And one of the things I always made a point of going to all my kids' games, sports games. And I started to photograph them, and now I work for a lot of private schools shooting sports, so they actually gave me a whole career path at the end of the day, and one that I really, really enjoy. There's just so much joy about it. One of the hardest things was having my kids grow up and then never being on the field again. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
what, they're done?
Yeah.
you know they're going to grow up and go away, but you don't realize how every Saturday and half the afternoons every week you were, kind of watching them do their thing, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. So that's been a transition as they've grown up and now they're adults, and I get to go watch other people's kids play.
So your identity and your experience as a photographer began taking photos of your kids playing sports?
No, well, I was doing other stuff too, but it's a line of work that I would not have thought to go into until I was doing it. Because I would get eventually the teams that they were on were like, we'll hire you for the season.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, geez, I should get, and then, I realized like a lot of the independent schools will hire photographers for sports.
Yeah.
And it's just really fun. You start to see the kids in different sports too. You're like, oh, I remember him. He's a football player. Look at that. He's really good at basketball too. It's kind of fun. They're not your kids, but you still kind of get that moment of recognition and joy in watching them excel. It's really fun.
I think as women often that identity as a parent, as a mother, and our professional identity are identities that can sometimes feel in conflict. So it was interesting to hear how that actually, they were being supported.
I shot at the kids' schools. I've actually gone in and shot for the schools too. So
Yeah.
it was actually a way that I got to be in their world. And especially with boys, the female, there are very few ways you really get to be in that game with them, like it's been a real pleasure to kind of like, wow. Capture your kid like getting that goal, like they're so excited, you're so excited, and we've got it forever. It's really great.
We are getting close to the time when I want to turn it over to the audience for questions and answers, but before I do so, I just wanted to give all of you a chance to either add one more thing that you're like, oh, I wish I had said that, or a question or comment to one another. So, anything else?
I just wanted to say I love hearing from all of you guys. Just makes me feel special.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to say to Liza, I really admire that you so open about your dyslexia. I know I've spoken to a few people on my podcast that are neurodivergent as well. And it's not an easy thing to navigate sometimes because and everyone else is trying to figure out and using the wrong words for it. And so I could very much hear that for you as well, that they're using the wrong words because they don't know what you know, and they don't see what you see. And so I appreciate that you brought us into seeing that. Yeah, I also appreciate all of you. I can very much relate to you with that.
I just want to thank Fivesparks and Kathy for having this incredible show too. You don't often see pictures of women with disabilities, period. And to see a whole room full like this, it's so joyous, I hope everybody in the audience goes home and gets a nice photo of themselves. Seriously, for your families, not for you. It's so great to kind of have a photo that you're proud of, and to be a body of this work. It's just really, really special. And thank you to Fivesparks for that too, and Andy, you're a great moderator.
Well, you guys showed a lot of courage and honesty. I appreciate that. So, let's give them Okay, questions, and how are we going to do this, Mark? Someone's going to raise their hand, and you're going to walk the mic over to them? Yeah, and why don't you tell us who you are? If you want, tell us how old you are.
Just a moment.
Oh. If you want to yell.
Hi everyone, my name is Erica. I'm 63. Yay! And the whole thing is like, I don't care how old I am. Like, you can't help when you're born. Why should we apologize for this?
Exactly.
You're born when you're born. I mean, but it's our culture, and it's all about beauty and sexiness and all this stuff. And so, there's this beautiful word in Japanese. It's shibui, and it means the beauty of aging. And we don't have a word for that in our culture. Words express what is in the mind of the culture, and we just don't have that. So think about that. I think that's really important. And also, I love this idea, 50 over 50. I started a website once, and I was going to do all this, and I never did anything. But I was like, I'm a writer, I'm an author. I've tried for 35 years to get a book published. Finally, at age 57, it happened. And so just never give up on your dreams. And, you know, and I've loved hearing all your stories. So great. And I bet everyone in this audience has incredible stuff to say. Maybe another panel, Mark.
Okay, any questions in the audience? No. Really?
Comments or takeaways?
Oh, great. Mark's coming around to you.
Hi, my name is Andra, and I'm 58, and yeah, and I just was sort of struck by listening to everybody and this idea that women and women that I know very often feel that they need permission to do things, to do whatever the things that you've done. Whereas, and I don't want to say all women or all men, but that men are often quite confident about doing things and whether they know how to do it or not, especially women looking for jobs. Can I say that I did that on my resume? Can I not say it? And it just seems like, what is that about? I mean, I think I have some ideas about society, et cetera, but I was just wondering if anybody had any thoughts on, why we feel we need permission.
Great question. I see you taking off your mask, Sadie.
Well. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that women do feel that they need permission because culturally and historically, we've always had to have permission, right? In this country, it's only in the last 30 years or so that women have been able to get credit cards without having the permission of a man. It's only in the past 50 years or so that women have been able to open a bank account or get a mortgage. I don't even know what a mortgage was, but it's only within my lifetime that women have been able to do things without having the permission of a man. And not even a husband. It had to be a father, or it could be a brother, it could even be a son. But women had to have permission. And so when we talk about the body remembers, we remember these things. And these things are passed down subliminally, just like, I'm an equity and inclusion coach, so just like racism, just like discrimination, all of these things are passed down in ways that we don't even realize. And we often have to just stop and go, wait a minute, why am I feeling this way? And really push ourselves to understanding the power that we hold in being able to say, we live in this country now. I can do these things. I don't need anybody's permission. I'm okay. I can do this and I'm smart, right? I'm smart and I know that I can do this. So but that's why. It's because historically, everything you had to get permission.
That's a great question.
Liza, you want to answer that too?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up a little bit. I think one of the things that happens with women is that we feel like we have to be perfect in order to do whatever the thing is, rather than, the 50% that your average dude feels like they need to be in order to do the same thing. And, you see it played out in lots of different ways. And also, as a representative of the female race, you're viewed differently. And, certainly if you're a different ethnic background or different racial background or whatever, you're the token representative of that. And so you feel like I have to be really good in order to step forward into this place. So there's so many extra burdens that are put on us that need to go away.
So, some of us here have about 30 years on you. So that's called 80 years old. Plus.
Wow.
So
This is ridiculous. They should be getting them, they should be getting a panel of
Yeah.
So thank you for pointing that out. I feel exactly the same way. And as far as 30 years from now, I look at like just the change that has happened in the last 30 years, and I can't even begin to anticipate what it's going to be like. I'm just hoping to hold on. Because, you know, I mean, so much it changes, like technologically or socially, like these things you just brought up, like, yeah, and, you know, I think as women, we also all think we have to fight this alone. Like, we think, is there something wrong with me, instead of, what the hell's wrong with society that I feel this way, you know? And I think, you know, that's that tapping back into some kind of an anger at the system instead of internalizing it. One of the things I hated about having young kids was, like, every woman had to figure it out for themselves. There's no, you know, we don't have government-run daycare. We don't have anything. Women are still doing that, and it's incredibly expensive, and it's a horrible decision to make. And you know, you make it in a vacuum. Why? You know, if men were having babies, we would have institutionalized daycare. Believe me, we would. You know, and we don't, and it's ridiculous. It doesn't just hurt women and babies. It hurts men too. It hurts families. We're so screwed up that way.
So men.
I'm not bashing here. I'm just saying
How
the
did you
society.
end with this groundswell of women being strong and doing? Are they just going to?
No, I think the most forward-thinking men are very courageous and step into roles that they're not familiar with or comfortable with either, and support the women as they move into their roles. I mean, you know, I can't speak for everybody, but my husband's awesome. He changed more diapers than I did, cooked more meals. When my kids got sick, they said, "Daddy." Because I would always get sick when they got sick, and he didn't, so I'm like, "Yours." You know, I think it's not a change of just women, it's a change of men too. And it's, you know, and I think most young men are getting that. And maybe there's, you know, it's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be a back and forth, but I think there's a groundswell there too. It's just not as talked about.
I see the mask is off, yeah.
You unmuted.
When we talk about socialization, that's kind of what we're talking about, right? We talk about the things that we learn that are passed down, and that we accept as the norm. And so when I think about it, when I was younger, when I was my daughter's age, I lived in Salt Lake City, Utah, and no one looked like me. And I would go into the bathroom and I would, you know, look at myself and wonder why my skin was different, why my hair was different, why everything was different. And I now have a 10-year-old. Of course, she's biracial, but I have a 10-year-old now, around the same age that I was when I was in Salt Lake City. And she has curly hair, she's got brown skin, and she is super comfortable in her skin because she sees representations of herself in a lot of things. So when you ask me 30 years from now what I'm really hoping will happen, I'm hoping that her children will not even have to be having the same conversation that we're having now, in that, you know, how are things going to change? Because the socialization of us will have changed from the next generation on.
To add on to your comment is, I think, you know, one of the things that happened to me at 50 is I realized, hey, I hit all the cultural milestones, you know. I've had my career, I've been married, I've been divorced, I've had kids, you know, I've done all the things. And so I'm heading out to sea, and there's no lighthouses, and there's no buoys, and it's a wide open sea, and that's both exciting and a little terrifying, but, you know, the possibility for a huge amount of creativity. And I think that perhaps this period from, you know, whatever age you pick up through 100 is that it has the potential to be more creative because you're not falling into that societal stuff of you should be doing this, and you're either doing it or not, but you're having to navigate around the should. So my hope is that more people of all genders are going to be able to go into that sea with a sense of excitement and exploration
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I love that. I totally feel the same way too. Just looking at what I have been able to feel, the level of confidence I've been able to feel in the past 2 years, I know that as long as I keep investing in myself and surrounding myself with people who are vulnerable, who find strength in vulnerability, and who are willing to just question things that don't make sense, I know that it's just going to be exponential, because I feel like these conversations are just really eye-opening and solidifying. You know, like it brings us all together. It removes the age, it removes the gender, and it just makes us all on the same playing field. And if we all feel very similar, and the end result is just like to have fulfillment in your life, right? And to have a sense of purpose, and to realize that you mattered, that you made a difference in this world. How can we all help each other do that? That's just, I think with the technology, it's just going to be exponential in the next.
Well, I'm looking at our time, and I actually think that's a lovely point to end on. Mark, anything you want to say to wrap up?
Man?
Yeah, token man, would you come
Does the
forward?
man want to say?
May I speak? I just want to thank everyone on the panel today for your sharing your stories and your strengths and your vulnerabilities. I think it's been a great conversation. Of course, we could go on for a lot longer, but I think this is a great introduction to the topic, and hopefully the conversations will continue outside the event today. I want to thank Andy Perkins for moderating. She's a huge supporter of what we're doing here at Fivesparks, and a great friend, and she really stepped up to the challenge and did a great job, so thank you very much. I also want to thank the Harvard Cable TV team, who you've seen running around doing AV things, and their collaboration with us is allowing us to live stream the event today. So for those of you who didn't make it in live in person today, hopefully you enjoyed the discussion at home. And we'll also have an edited recording of the event available on our website and on the Harvard Cable TV website at some point soon. And other than that, is there anything else that we should be announcing? Come back and see the exhibit. It'll be here again until the first week of March. And if you're not already on our mailing list, you can go to our website and subscribe and find out all the things that are coming up next month. Thanks again for coming out, and thanks to everyone for participating today.
Thank you.